Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. Today we're talking to an old friend, Mr. Brad Costanzo. We'll get into the details of exactly how old and why he's a friend here in a little bit, but I'm excited for this podcast and for this episode because I feel like Brad's going to share some insights into my background. Damn it, I need some water. Just life in general and how we've been able to do some marvelous things through our partnership, through our friendship, which would be, I think would be useful for people that are just starting out. I forget that people are starting out before me or after me. I feel like everyone just started at the same time. Having said that, Brad, what's up, brother?
Welcome. It's good to see you, homie.
Yeah, I've seen your face in a long time.
I know. Oh, geez. Started this crazy journey together, didn't we?
How long has it been since we started the business together?
Well,
what's the official?
I mean, I think official. So we both read the 4 Hour Work Week. I think it was I want to say November of 2007. In and around that month, October, November 2007. And then we bought our domain and we started January 2008. I think we started talking about, if not before that, partnering, and then we bought Puma Skills on February 4th, 2008. And after we had already decided to get her done, and it was a wild ride since then.
It has been a wild ride. So many people always ask
me. You had black hair back then, dude.
No shit, I had hair. Look at that. I hate this camera, but it's like, fuck it. I almost rock the missing tooth and the bald head. Like, screw it. I am who I am. I'm getting a replacement soon. Good old days when I had a full set of teeth and hair. Black hair. But let's back up a little bit before we jump into that, because I think that's a fascinating story for both of us. Where did we meet, Brad? Where was our first interaction?
NLP class. We both signed up for Susan Stageman's NLP class, and we learned about neurolinguistic programming and became, buddies in the class. And then the way we journeyed into our entrepreneurial venture together was throughout that, because it was like 18 months of training or something crazy.
Dude, yeah.
Like once
that was the most money I had ever spent up until that point on any education. Right?
Yeah.
I didn't go to college, so I threw a bunch of money at that.
That was a good education. Led to a lot of cool things. And then Dale had us read the 4 Hour Work Week, and we all read it, and we were all like, all right, this looks awesome. And we'd become such good friends just from being in the class together, et cetera, that we decided, well, let's try to figure this stuff out. I know I got laid off my job at the time. I was a financial analyst, and I got laid off in November 30th. 2007 was my last day at work. So today's November 16th, 2022. So
oh shit.
What is that? Is that 25 years? Fuck.
Holy crap. Really?
Can't be 25. No, it's
17. No,
15 years.
Yes.
15 years.
I'm about to say, because it's been 15 years since I divorced.
Yeah. So I'm going up on my 15th year. And then you were still working at the grocery store. And anyway, that's the way it worked. It was just two buddies saying, let's figure this out. This looks like a good side hustle. And at the time I had, I didn't have another job, so it was my full-time hustle.
My motivation for starting with you, and we met in NLP class. At the time, I was trying to get some more education on communication and whatnot, how we communicate, how we can improve ourselves. Had read about it, invested in it, and didn't know what the hell I was walking into. Little did I know, some of my best friends would come from that group, and that was the first time that I learned that lesson is invest in yourself, and then surround yourself with people that are doing better than you. And I the way I used to tell the story is, I wouldn't say I'm not dumb, but I was the least successful in the room. And by no means did anybody ever make me feel like I was less than. But in the group, I started to understand what that meant, to surround yourself with people that were doing other things that you wanted to do. And that was fun for me. And I got to learn a lot about communication and started working through my shit. One of the reasons that we did end up starting the business, and I wanted to do all this because I was divorced and I wanted to be more involved in my kids' lives. So just to kind of come to the future for a second, my daughter just turned 18, my baby girl.
I know, I saw that. Crazy.
So I feel like that's
It was
important
free. It was
because,
free when we started getting going.
yes, they were itty bitty at the time,
Oh,
and they loved you. By the way, they always appreciated you,
that great.
Theo, Brad. But it's crazy because we've come so far to the point. They were the reason why I did all this, and in a way, manner of speaking, I want to thank you for that because through you, through our venture, which we'll share more about here in a second, I've been able to make it to a point where I could provide for them. Like it's been a fascinating ride, my friend.
It's been awesome to see too.
Yeah.
And dude, like
Um,
it just goes to show, like you took that step, you made a big investment in yourself with NLP, and then you, I mean that obviously started a really cool chain reaction. For me as well. Like you are as much of a part of my success as I am of yours, and it's kind of cool to know that because I don't know if I would have had the I don't know if I would have had the guts to do this all, like start an internet
hmm,
marketing based product on my own. And I know that back then technology was a hell of a lot harder than it is today with all the tools. And
yes.
you were my like go to, like you're the one who just figured it out and got stuff done. And listen to my cursing and crying, like, why is it so hard? And I'm not that technical. I've become much more technical, but I probably would have just thrown my hands up and said, screw this, I'm going to go get a job, had you not helped enable the vision that I had for the
You
course.
have a vision, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it worked out. It worked out well. And it also goes to show that when you're partner with somebody who's got different skill sets. And I know that in business, it's really easy to partner with a person who's exactly like you and
Mm,
who has the exact same qualities. And you and I complemented each other without overlapping too much. I was like, okay, I'll be the talent and the vision, and
yep.
you be the guy who figures it out how to get it done. You had just enough tech skills and HTML skills back when we had to use those. And then, what I really appreciated about you is you're just like, I'll figure it out. And you
Yeah.
did. You figured out tech skill. I mean, here you were, like you said, no college education, working in a grocery store, but you took it upon yourself to learn how to learn some really valuable skill sets that you could then leverage and utilize later on. But then you're also really resourceful. So you just like, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And that's one of the things I
Dude,
like most.
I I coded a video player.
That's crazy.
Do you remember that? I coded in Flash, I believe. I literally that was before you could easily like anybody watching this is like, what does that even mean? Coded a video
No,
player.
they're like, what is Flash?
But we were recording videos and of you, and you were the talent, and we had to get them to play. This is before the idea of even using YouTube videos was kind of the thing we would do to embed. It's a training site, and I had to figure out how to get your face to start talking to people on their browsers.
Yep. Crazy.
And that to me was one of the biggest, like, whoa, what the fuck am I doing these days? I did want to ask you though, why me? Why did you choose me? I've always wondered that. What did you see? Like,
For a
hey,
few
you.
reasons, I felt that my board of directors needed a Hispanic male. It was for, dude. I was ESG before ESG is cool. No, why? Well, I mean, we were buddies. We got along really well in LP. We were the class clowns, probably me more so. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, definitely
yeah.
you.
You own that one.
But
You got that.
no, but we were buddies and friends. We got along really well. We both were like, screw it, let's try this. And
Hmm.
I always enjoyed hanging out with you and working with you and brainstorming with you. And you always seem to kind of like go along with some of my harebrained ideas. And it worked. Yeah. I mean, I think it was just good rapport.
I think one of the
And
things
I
I
didn't,
realized that, yes.
go ahead.
Sorry.
I
I
was
was
gonna say
going to
I
say
didn't know if you had the skills to do it, but I didn't
oh,
have the skills to do what we were setting out to do either. I was like, well, you want to learn this together? And I do remember I've said this a
this is a good
million
point.
times that I think one of the reasons I know for my success behind that first product was the fact that neither one of us, although we read the 4 Hour Work Week and we had these ideas of, oh, this could be really big, we can make a lot of money. I don't think either one of us was focused on that. I think we used it as a marketing laboratory to just
Exactly.
learn. Like, all
This
right,
is exactly it.
let's just figure out the process, because if we can do it here, we can do it anywhere. And we weren't betting we weren't investing a lot of money. We were investing a lot of time. And it was just like, well, the first time I wrote a piece of sales copy, that was a success. The first time, we built a sales page in WordPress and coded it and said, hey, that's a success. And just by looking at, like, screw the goals. Like, it wasn't about the goals. It was about the process.
Yeah.
Can we learn this? And I think that we were both willing to learn. And that was the key.
I think one time you used to say a couple of times you've mentioned to me that we used it as kind of our education through the process of doing. We ended up learning, like, oh crap, we got to build a membership site, because it started out as an ebook, right?
I know. Yeah, totally.
You had that written up after a while. It wasn't that big a deal, but then somehow or another, it became a membership site, which essentially now is what are they calling it now? Learning. It used to be called an info marketing space. Now they call it just educational space, I suppose. Everyone has a course. Well, we were some of the first people doing courses, and through the course of doing that, we learned. We didn't know what the hell we were doing, and I think that's what I hear a lot from people. Is like, well, what's the next step? I'm like, well, just take a step and then figure it out. You'll find out what the next step is for you, and just go fucking find the answers. It's I think it says a lot about both of us, because we both lunged. I had nothing going for me. Well, I had some things going for me, but I didn't know anything about anything. Yeah. And you just would challenge me. The conversations, just for people to know, if you don't know Brad, he is one of the most brilliant guys you will ever meet. He's like a mad wizard. He's grabbing from everywhere because he's read or consumed some piece of content, and he puts together these ideas, and they're coming at you every day. Idea after idea.
Sometimes a few too many. Like, stop.
Like, Brad, you just told me to implement this thing yesterday, which I thought was great, and I'm still working on the one from last week. Slow down. Yeah. But it was fun, because it was just a challenge to figure out, how do we organize this? And I guess I was, in a sense, also a project manager, trying to figure out the execution. And it was just me and you, right? Mm-hmm. And then we tried to hire some outsourcers, but Blanche from the Philippines. You remember? Her name came up I think she came up in Gmail. I tried to type in the search, and an old email from her came up.
That's great.
Yeah. But I've always appreciated that about you, that you were probably one of the most well-read people that I know, or at least can consume enough to be dangerous.
Oh yeah. Very, very true. Very
true. Excuse me. So we started to gain some success, and one of the things that I looking back at it, is quite obvious through your major skill set, which I believe is just networking and being such a great conversationalist. Do you remember that?
Also known as a bullshit artist, but go ahead.
Yes. Shh, I was trying to keep.
My mom always said, "I can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit." So
you dazzled them with some bullshit, but despite that, the overarching lesson to me was, you were really good at building relationships. That's when we started finding success in the business, because we didn't know. We were trying to learn marketing. Yeah. And you went out there and you started nurturing these relationships. We started to take off the business.
I think that's the only reason, to be honest, that product was a success. Like, do 100%. We divulge what the product was? You don't hide that from anybody, do you?
No, I don't.
Yeah, we taught magic tricks to the pickup artist crowd. We taught guys how to learn to do magic tricks to impress girls without looking like they were doing magic tricks to impress girls. Like how to be an effective, like, pickup artist magician without looking like a cheese ball. Wait, where was I going with this? You were just saying, I just literally just lost my train of thought talking about being old.
Now you made me lose mine.
Where was I going?
The relationships. We're talking about relationships.
So, and we thought, like, hey, this kind of be a cool idea, and we could probably teach this, or basically just ripping off other magic tricks and revealing it. But then I realized that, well, there's not a lot of people searching for this. Like, there's not a lot of search volume. And at the time, Facebook was like just born.
Infancy.
Facebook, I don't even know if they had Facebook ads. So it was like Google ads or nothing, or email lists. And that was it.
Which we tried. We did Google ads.
Yeah, we did Google ads that worked. I kind of threw money away. I mean, but it was just like a test. But at the same time, there wasn't enough search volume. So there were people searching for magic tricks and people searching for pickup artist stuff, but not enough people searching for pickup artist magic tricks to help make a dent. So, and then back in the day, the joint ventures and affiliate relationships and getting other product and list owners to email their list promoting yours as an affiliate, making, we paid 50% was the thing. And I remember, I'll just take you back through, my thoughts here is I remember I had built some relationships with other pickup artists, product owners. And for what it's worth, like TV and I we would never call ourselves like pickup artists. We were not, we would read the stuff and it was entertaining, but I had a long-term girlfriend who's my wife now. And, we were marketers in this crowd. And so I remember
I was a geek behind the computer.
Yeah. And I remember reaching out to Dave Miz and he was my first affiliate, and reaching out to some other people. And we started to build relationship with other marketers in the industry. And then I remember trying to get a hold of other people. Like it was the guy who went by Thundercat, Matt something. And two people introduced us, hey, you need to talk to Brad. He's got a really cool product. And it was like, magic tricks. That seems stupid. I don't even know who this guy is. And I remember that made me mad. And I was like, oh, you don't know who I am? Well, you're about to. So I borrowed the brilliance of something that was happening in the traditional internet marketing community called the syndicate, which is where a lot of gurus they would basically create their own little cabal of I'll mail for you, you mail for me. And if you were in the syndicate, you're basically just trading offers. Yes. I remember the dating advice niche was so disjointed. And Facebook groups were not a thing, but I had a relationship with maybe like 6 to 8 other product owners who were really cool. And I set up a site called Seduction Syndicate, and it's where dating, pickup, and sexual advice, like marketers go to. It was like a free online mastermind done in Google Groups, which still exists to this day. Started in 2000.
Does it really?
Yeah, still there.
The syndicate still exists?
I don't know how active it is. I still get emails once in a while, but
okay.
I don't read them. That being said, what I did is I set up and I say this because if anybody's listening, there's kind of like a cool business lesson in here. And this was one of the smartest things I've ever done in business. But it was, so I set up an application on the website. You probably still see it, seductionsyndicate.org, flood it with applications. And people would have to go there to enter in who they are, what their offer is, phone number, email, etc. And then I would receive those. And I just told my friends in the community, hey, go invite them to this group, because we'll share marketing advice, launch calendar, promotion calendar, etc., and we'll help generate affiliates. And there was no cost to get involved. Unfortunately, I should have done that. But my whole thesis was, I'm not the coolest kid on the playground, but I'm having the party at my house. So if you want to come to my house, through my door. So and I remember when the guy who went by the name Thundercat, Matt, I can't remember his last name, Matt something. He applied, and I emailed him back. Hey, Matt, I'm familiar with your work. I like what you're doing. Thanks for applying to the syndicate. Hey, listen, the next step is just to set up a phone call. So when are you free? So we can get on a call, and it'd be like a Skype call just like this. And I'm like, oh man. And now this gave me an opportunity to build a relationship. He wanted something from me, which is access to the group as recommended by somebody else. And that allowed me to just build a relationship just like we're doing. Hey, tell me more about this. Tell me more about that. Mm-hmm. And invariably they would say, like, so what's your product, Brad? And I would say, well, it's Puma Skills. I teach guys how to do magic tricks without looking cheesy. It has actually a really good EPC. By the way, we've got an affiliate program. I'm happy to promote you. Let me know if you like information on ours. And now there's this whole reciprocity thing. I'm letting him into my world, and he doesn't have to promote me. But as long as it's a product, it was a good product. It was well marketed. Mm-hmm. As long as it didn't make them look bad and it paid well, I never had a single person in that syndicate deny promoting us. And so that whole thing is about social capital. Like I was socially broke in that industry, but I just made sure that I want to create the hub and spokes of the industry, and they have to come through me. They don't just join. I mandated that they had a relationship with
conversation.
Me. Yeah. Right. And then it created reciprocity. So I still, to this day, it's like, if had I not done that, I don't think Puma Skills would have been a success, because this was before you could just buy media to it, etc. So,
It was a brilliant move. I remember when you came to me with it, I was like, I think this sounds incredibly smart. I don't know how it will work because we were still new, but it just seems like it's going to work if you're able to get enough people into it. And after a while, it became the place to be. Everyone was
oh
a
yeah,
member of it. And that's when we started to produce revenue,
yep,
right? To the product. That's when I start, and this is important because I still was struggling trying to figure out how to be in my daughter's lives.
hmm
I was divorced, but I was still working my day job and I was hating it.
hmm
But you pulling this stunt, this brilliant move of just being the spoke, as you said, was one of the smartest things you could have done, because it also, I started to sense that this was a possibility, that we
yep,
can actually make money from it. So you started to cut some little checks here or there. So come, was it February, March, the new year was 2007, I suppose, 2008. I decided to walk away because we were making a little money. I was like, fuck, if we're able to make a little bit with the little bit of time that I put into it, I say a little bit, I put quite a bit, but
oh
it
yeah,
wasn't full time, right? And what if I quit and I do this like 24/7, or at least more, give it more attention? What could we do? So I applaud you and I thank you for that, for building those relationships. It wasn't a lot. I mean, it wasn't like we were killing it, but it was enough just for me to say, this is possible. This is really legitimately possible.
yeah, yeah. And the other lesson I like to share out of that is, like, I get a lot, like, people will say, Brad, you're not the only one on TV. Brad, that was brilliant. You're a really smart guy. But it's not necessarily originality. It's like, I pay attention to a lot of
Mm,
stuff. Like, I borrowed
right.
one of my
I know
favorite
where you
books
are.
is actually called Borrowing Brilliance. And it's like
Hmm.
taking what other people are doing over here and seeing how you can combine, or like where will it apply. And I was, in the meantime, while I was side hustling another product in the real estate space with another friend of mine, I
Hmm.
was trying to publish him. It didn't go anywhere. But in the meantime, I met a guy named Trevor who ran a group exactly like this in the real estate space,
Yes.
real estate investors, and it was called JV Update. It still is. People would talk and generate affiliates. And I remember Dale introduced me to Trevor, and we were just talking, and exactly the same. It was the exact same model as Seduction Syndicate, but then he said those words, social capital. He goes, "Oh no, this has been a great thing for social capital," and I was like, "Ding, ding, 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 ding." I need that, because I was like, I need
Hmm.
social capital. This is how you did
Yeah.
it. Let's just try it in a different niche, and worked out tremendously well. There's a lot of things I would have done differently and better, and I would have started to charge for it. But yeah, relationships have always been my key skill set, I think.
Yeah.
And
You're a master at it, in my
yeah, thanks.
opinion. I've always looked up to you.
Thank you.
Like how? Like I literally would, when I would be in circles with you and just anywhere around you, I'd watch you because I keep in mind, just so for context, I didn't have a really involved father, and I didn't
Yeah,
have a good social circle where I can model that kind of thing. So you were one of the people that I was like, how does he do it? So I'd watch you. I,
nice.
I mean, I was a
Well, that's what
kind,
NLP is
funny person.
modeling. Yeah, NLP
Exactly,
is modeling.
100%. There it is. So you would be one of the people that I modeled, and would take a look at what is he doing, how is he nurturing that, how are people willing to do all these things for him, and it was because you created in my opinion, a reciprocity. You would also give plenty to them. You
I think
would
that was
give.
yeah. I was intentional about a lot of networking, but it was never ulterior motive based. Like, I would be intentional. Like, if there was somebody I wanted to develop a relationship with, um, there were either things I would do, whether it was just give without asking, or just try to be cool, be funny. I would always, like, some of the people have said to teach a course on this. I was like, it's hard to really create what I did, but I would just be genuinely curious. I would be, and I still am, like, I'd be genuinely curious about somebody. And the things I'm curious about are oftentimes like, what are you doing? Like, how can I add
Hmm.
value to you in one way or another? And I'm just listening. What are you up to? What are you passionate about? What are you working on? What's a nut you're trying to crack? What's this, that, or the other? And then I would just pay attention to that, and then paying attention allowed me to say, oh, I know somebody, right? And I think also because I do have a really good memory. That's one of the superpower. I have a really strong memory. So whether I read something in a book, like I'm famous for my book recommendations. Oh, TV, you got to read this book. It's blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you exactly what you need. Or I'll say, oh, I know a guy. Let me introduce you. And there's very few things that give me as much pleasure as making a really powerful or a good introduction. Like I get giddy. But I like giving introductions like this more than I like receiving them. And I also know that because I was the glue that connected them together, it bleeds off on me. And I oftentimes didn't ask for anything in return. And in fact, like, I think that's like, I wish I would have had more things to ask for in return as I was building these relationships, because even to this day, I have a tremendous amount of social capital with some big people that I've never cashed in on, which is okay. But, that was the other thing I would do is I would never, even if I'm talking to people who are way above me socioeconomically or whatever, I never let that, I never acted like it. I always assumed we are on equal footing. And I don't know if that's just something in my subconscious allowed me to do, is not be too intimidated, but I'd bullshit with them and I'd make jokes and I would purposely not be overly impressed by who they are.
That has to shock them a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And exactly. And it's like, I'm just putting myself on your level. And a lot of people, like the bigger and more, I guess, well-recognized or status they have, the more they're used to people fawning all over them. And the more I would just treat them like a buddy of mine. I'd make a stupid joke or, which I'm famous for. And I would just, but I would just treat them, I would immediately treat them like a friend and not like somebody I'm trying to do something else with. But I would always look for, just ways. I still do. I always look for ways to add value and make connections with nothing else in return. And just try to be a cool person that people want to be around, as well as just be friendly and open and curious and interested in them. Because, I mean, those are just how to win friends and influence people 101. Yeah.
But you're giving. It's still giving at the end of the day. It's giving attention, giving value, making them feel seen, I suppose.
And just being present with them as they're talking is oftentimes very, what do you call it? And rare.
Especially now, more so now than ever. But yes, it's always been a problem.
Exactly.
So I like to move it along a little bit in the sense of Puma Skills continued to grow. We started to do really well. I quit my job. I said, screw it, I'm walking away. I don't know. It was probably, into 2008? We were doing well enough, but I mean, it wasn't like,
you quit. Didn't you quit in March of 2009?
Correct. March 1st, 2009. Yeah.
Oh, you got a memory.
You do, brother. You do. Or maybe I've posted it on Facebook every year for the last 13 years. Eventually, like, I get it. You quit on March 1st, bro.
That doesn't hurt.
But we were doing well.
We weren't killing it.
We weren't killing it, but it was well. Like it was consistently growing, and then it's obviously started to plateau and then taper off, which is inevitable. And in that time, I also started to grow. I started to take dance classes. I started to take improv. I started to do other things. And at some point, you reached out to me and says, hey, man, you don't look like you're interested anymore. Like you're like that into this anymore. And you were 100% right. I wasn't, because the dating thing was never my thing. It was just a product. And I'm incredibly grateful, by the way, because the story I tell people ask me, how did I get into marketing? We built this thing. And then we looked up and like,
and roll. Sorry, go ahead.
And then we're like, wait, how are people going to buy it? How are they even going to know that it exists? Oh, marketing, right? We got to do marketing. I had never really heard that term before that. So then we had to go learn SEO. We had to learn Google Ads, because that's pretty much all that was available, and mailings, JV partnerships, that kind of thing. But that's when I started to get my marketing hat on and understanding what this whole thing was. Anyways, we're reaching the end of the year. You reach out to me. You're like, hey, let me just buy you out. I'm like, let's do it. Fuck it. I wasn't married to the product. It was just for me an education. It was nervous. You gave me a kind offer. I took it. And for me, I think it was a demonstration. By the way, I've never had another partner since you.
Nice. I
You were
have.
my
And
first and my last. I
I,
don't know
I
how you're gonna
have,
take
but I've
that.
never had a better partner than you.
Oh, see, now you're gonna make me cry. um, you said something earlier, and it's true. We didn't know when we got into it. You definitely were the face. You were the brand. I was the back end guy. I was the one that was in charge of trying to execute your ideas, and it worked out perfectly for that reason.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it wasn't the whole business wasn't my thing, and I enjoyed it. It gave me a kickstart. But one of the things I love telling people is that when we broke up well. We
Yeah.
still made sure to maintain our friendship because too many partnerships like this end bad, horrible, which is the reason I'm scared to get into any others.
Yeah. Well, you have to be real careful. Like, and because I put, this isn't everything, but I put my relationships over money many, many, many times. Like, I would rather lose money than burn a valuable relationship. And I have done that many times. So for me, it was really intentional, and I could see like you were at this point, you were kind of phoning it in. Like I could tell you weren't like, fuck yeah, let's go do this, right? Like, okay, it was at that point, and I was probably most of the work was no longer tech related, et
Mm-mm.
cetera. It was
Correct.
much more, hey, I'm just going to write a new piece of copy and
Yep.
get people to email. It was
It
I
was
was at the
you.
point where I was probably doing 80% of the work at this point
It's
and
fair.
splitting it 50-50. And there was the selfish aspect as well. I'm doing most of the work and I'm only making 50% of the money. But also TV doesn't look like he's in it like as much as I was because this was still my brand. I was like, I'd
Hmm.
rather just make an offer. And I'd never bought anybody out of this. I didn't even know what the hell I was offering. I was like, I'd rather make it a good offer to you to buy you out and let us part as friends as opposed to let this creep, because that was the one thing is I could see if we let it go 6 more months, I might build resentment
Mm,
for like, oh, I'm doing all the work and you're not doing anything,
mm.
I'm not paying you this. And I never wanted to have that happen. I was like, no,
Thank you.
I think TV wants to do some other stuff. I'm going to cut you free. The funny story is, and I think I told you this before. We had like a really good month. I think it was, I want to say, I may be making this up. It may have been November of whatever year it was. And I think we had like a $20,000 month and it was like our
Mm.
best month ever. And that was like the selfish part of me going, oh, I got to split 50-50. Like, damn,
With this motherfucker?
and this company's doing this. And right now it's like a lot of the work I'm doing. And I was once more, I was never ever resentful in any stretch of the matter. But I remember thinking, okay, now's the time to buy him out because if it's going to continue this trajectory and
Yeah.
a lot of the work I'm doing, I have to do it now. So I made you, a very fair offer. And then
I
next
wouldn't know.
month,
I was like, yes.
after I paid the minute I paid you, the next month we did like 10,000, and then the next month we did like 8. That I did like 8,000, and it just like you got out at the peak,
Did
the
I?
peak revenue
That I didn't know.
of the history of the company. It just started to go downhill. So,
Or
and
maybe I was the magic formula. And
I
when I
believe me, I thought
left,
that I was like, maybe I really did need TV. Holy, but.
I'm sorry.
What do you remember? What year I bought you out? Was it 10 or
It
11?
had to have been early 2009. I think I made it through 2008, maybe. My timing is off. And I can't imagine leaving at least, when did I
You made
quit?
it
Wait, I'm
through
sorry.
2000.
I quit
No,
2009, 2010 ish.
yeah, it had to be 2010 because I sold
Yeah,
it at
I'm
the end
sorry.
of 2012, and it was like, and it had just started to like suck wind ever since. And I remember thinking, I may have just screwed up by letting TV go. It's possible. You never know. But
Wow.
anyway, that was.
Never heard
I
this
don't know if I
story.
ever told you that story.
You
That
didn't.
I wrote a check, and the next month I'm like, boom, shit.
I'll tell you this, though. I'm so clueless. I was clueless in business because before this, I had always worked in retail, right?
Yeah.
I was a manager. So I think before then, I know I would have. I probably would have walked away and say, "What do I need to sign? How do I give this to you?" Before that would have happened, because I would have felt it. There was no world where I would have sacrificed our friendship over money.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you literally invested every single penny into the company, and that does not, that
That's
never went without me. I never forgot that. Can't even
Yeah.
verbalize that. Can put that into a sentence. I never
Sure. I
forgot
forgot
that.
about that. I was like, I'll fund it. We'll split it 50-50. I don't know if we did one of those things where it was like, I get my money back before we get paid out. I don't even know if we did
Hmm.
that. We may
I
have.
don't think we did. I don't know.
I don't think so.
But
I
I
don't
would have
think
walked
so.
away.
Yeah, I don't think so. It was just like, look, I'll fund it, but you put
Yeah.
sweat equity in, I'll put sweat and money and just figure it
So
out.
does this happen without you funding it? Like, do I get here? No, it doesn't. You literally put every single penny. Web development, when we try to hire some web developers here or there, I tried to learn everything that I could so we didn't have to do any of that. I tried to take on anything that didn't involve you writing, because you became the copywriter, or you being the talent. And I have no reason to believe that I wouldn't have walked away, because I've done it since then. I walked away from, because I'm like, bro, I don't want to ruin a relationship and a friendship over some disagreement, and it ain't gonna be about money. So feel
Bingo.
free, don't pay me for this. Let's move on.
Well, and when those relationships where it hurts is when things are really successful. That's where it starts to be like a lot of times.
That's fair.
It's when all of a sudden there's a lot of money at stake, because that's when.
Yeah.
And luckily, I haven't had to deal with this, but that's where friendships can definitely take a back seat, because at this point, it's business is business. And if you're talking about hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars change hands, all of a sudden, friendship starts to get questioned. I believe, right? But I also know I've seen enough business transactions where it's all fun and games until there's big money on the table. So
Yeah.
had this been a multi-million-dollar thing, we may have gone to blows.
We're fighting. Meet me in the ring. We're gonna fight it out. Well, I'm grateful, regardless of that. We will never know if it had been billions of dollars we had to chop up. So grateful for that. Did you ever realize that we were at the at the forefront of this internet marketing thing, of this internet thing?
I thought we were late.
In many ways, we're like some of the original people.
OG.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy to think that we are. I think about it even from a point of view of just working from home. Everybody's always wanted to work from home, but now people are literally working from home because they have to. We were some of the first people doing it, and trying to really push the envelope there.
Yep. No, it's true. I mean, we were pioneers. Had to have a few arrows in our back, but it's funny because the big in internet marketing world, the biggest really event out there is called Traffic and Conversion Summit, which to this day I don't think you've ever stepped foot in. Always
No, I actually thought about going to this last one till I pulled up the prices. It was like 1,000 and 2,000, and it was like the next week. And then also getting the flights. I actually considered going, and I remember you went to one of the first ones in Austin, in some little banquet or something, banquet room.
I've gone to just about every one, and one of the things, the reason I bring this up, because I remember back in the early days, it was I would go there, and this was like where about in the beginning like 400 people, and these were the most OG badass internet marketers who. When you're in that room, they're sharing these really awesome strategies for making money online. And at the time, there was a very, very, very small subset of the world who knew how to do this. And we felt like secret ninjas, like who know this stuff, like magical. And that like we had a skill set that most of the normal people in the world don't have. Fast forward several years, that the digital marketing world grew like crazy. And I remember being maybe 2018 or 19, I was at Traffic and Conversion Summit here, and they had 6,000 people, not 400. I remember looking around and thinking, a lot of people here have been in this business for a couple years, and they're so much smarter than me at this, or they're so much more. Yes. Now we have super special at SEO and pay-per-click and all this other stuff. And I remember thinking, like, I haven't kept up my skill sets in this area. But I remember thinking, like, I'm an OG, but all of a sudden I'm not as special as I was. There's a lot of people who can do this. And I just remember thinking, all right, maybe I need to pivot what I'm looking at and what I'm doing and not just try to become a better tactical marketer, so I've tried to become a much more strategic marketer and business owner and whatnot. So that's been, but that was just a big shift. I was like, you ain't so special no more. There's a lot of people doing this stuff.
I definitely wanted to ask you about that. What are you doing these days? What are you focused on? What's
so
giving you joy?
So I'm working at a company for the first time.
You're always on something.
in the past 15 years, I'm working for the first time. I'm working at a company I don't own. Now I'm still
Okay.
technically a consultant to them, but I'm like working 40 to 50 hours a week. Um, Over the past, like ever since I sold Puma Skills, and I've been doing a lot of consulting. I've had some startups, some success, a little bit, a bunch of failures. I bought a business, sold it, didn't make much money. I broke even, I think, on it, but I got the experience of buying and selling a business. And but I've done a lot of consulting. I've been really successful at consulting and being kind of a virtual or a fractional CMO, and coming in and helping people grow their business, and just et cetera, right? Really kind of a growth and marketing consultant. And a year, I'm getting up to where I'm at right now, but a year ago, actually in middle of 2020, had this great idea with two partners to start a business. It was an e-commerce product in the CBD space. And I had this brilliant idea. Still to this day, I think it's a brilliant idea and it would have worked, but we went in a third. We funded it a third. I ended up doing about 80% of the work. And it's not necessarily it's not something bad on them. It was just a lot of the work fell into my specialty. And I spent a lot of time on this. We got it going, but it came to some differences in partnership, as well as capital. We needed a lot more capital and I needed a lot more help. And I wasn't, having done a lot of this work, I was not about to, invest a lot more capital into something that I wasn't 100% confident in our ability to operate it. And I was like, guys, I can't just do this. The opportunity cost for me is too big. And I pay a lot of attention to opportunity costs because I have a lot of opportunities. If I can struggle at something and have it, what do you call it? Like try to, like one of these days it's going to work out, but how much money am I turning away from other stuff over here? And I just couldn't handle the opportunity cost. So at the time then another guy, I got introduced to another guy who's got a coaching product and info product in the real estate space. And I was kind of like, I just shut this business down. Now, granted, I had also started heavily investing in Bitcoin and crypto in middle of 2020 at the same time that I was starting to build this other business. So my crypto portfolio was skyrocketing and I was making a dramatic amount of money daily when it was good. And it was amazing. I don't actually need to take on other clients. I can get focused. Most of my friends have said, dude, your biggest problem is you're not focused on one thing. I was like, all right, I will be. I'll be focused on, two things, this e-commerce business and then just investing cryptocurrency, which didn't take that much time. All was well until I shut off that business. And then I was like, all right, that's fine. This other client came in and he wanted to work with me. And I made a really big offer. I said, okay, I want, I don't mind saying I want 20,000 a month and 40% of your business. And he says, done. I was like,
Oh, wow.
I actually made an offer that I didn't think he would accept. And then it got to the point where he's like, okay, he in essence needed to be a CEO. And he's like, I want to build the team around you. And I was like, honestly, I don't want you to build a team around me. I don't think I'm a great example. I don't want your team around me. Like you have an offer. I find it really interesting, but this is too much for me. I don't want to run your business. So I brought in a company called Branditize, who is a really great marketing agency. And they work with, they handle Brian Tracy account and all this other stuff. If some people know who Brian Tracy is, some people who don't, but he's like,
you got to know. You're in the personal development space.
And so I brought them into tag team and I'll say, look, I'll stay on as the head of strategy for this client. And I'll work with your team and basically we'll work it together. Cause I know the agency really well. The founder's a good friend of mine. And we started to do that. It went really well. And then he started to just pay me a consulting fee to kind of look at their other accounts and say, hey, can you help us strategy on this account, that account? I said, yeah. So then in August, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse, which was, we'll pay you really well, give you equity in the agency, and made me the head of strategy for the company. So it's kind of a CMO. It's kind of not like I'm not doing as much CMO work for the agency. I'm the head of strategy for all the various accounts, which is going around and trying to look at their marketing funnels and tactics and try to course correct, et cetera. And I've been doing this this is November, 3 months? And it's been going great. I liked it. It's stressful. It's busy, but it's a different kind of stress and busy. But it's awesome. Like at Branded Ties, we focus on working with experts. We like to say we help experts build their empires, and we work with a number of clients, about a 40-person team. I'm on the executive committee. It's been a lot of fun, but it's also been like, oh wow, like I'm actually working at a big company, or big-ish. It's a big company for a small company, or at least big compared to what I've been used to working at for a while. And but it's
Congratulations.
exciting to have a team behind me to be able to do a lot of this stuff.
It's interesting because I've been asked to be a CMO.
Yeah,
One of my clients has asked me a couple of times. He's like, "Can I just hire out this or bring me on as a partner, like start a new company,
yeah.
and I'd be running the marketing?" And I'm like, I don't want to work for anyone. Like I
Yeah.
really struggle with that.
Dude, it's a new challenge. Like I like parts of it and I don't like parts of it. There's a lot of responsibilities now I have to show up. I have people who are counting on me. I mean, you have
Yeah.
to do that technically if you're your own business as well. But I kind of like solo entrepreneurship a lot better. But the things I like about this is it's a high, steady pay with upside. It's a different kind of stress because before, if I'm working
Yeah.
with a client, if the client's unhappy, I may lose that client and it impacts my money. In this case, it's not just me. And if the agency loses the client, it doesn't take it out of my paycheck unless I screwed something up and I get fired. So it's a different kind of stress, but it's a
Right. That's a good point.
get done stress and perform. And we'll see where it goes. I think there's a lot of potential. So the other thing I know is I'm not a good business manager, and I'm not organized. Like, right, I'm kind of like a marketing MacGyver. I come in and I co-opt different ideas, and I'm kind of shoot from the seat of my pants, and I'm a bull in a china shop sometimes. But that's
a
why
ton
I'm
of
like,
metaphors at one time.
right? Yeah, it's
It's like a ton of metaphors all at one time.
boom, 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 boom. But that's kind of where I'm at. And but I'm not good at administering and running a business. But I'm just kind of a marketing mercenary.
These days, I have a little team, and I've realized that some of the things that I did in management have served me tremendously well because I'm working on processes and systems to be able to do everything. Because I have like 2 video editors, 2 writers, and an executive assistant to be able to manage it all. And it's been interesting to find out if I could do that very thing because I've learned that I'm actually good, and it needs to, or otherwise the whole thing falls apart, and my business goes to shit, and we
Yep.
can't have that.
Exactly.
So it's crazy to see how we've come so far, brother. I appreciate you tremendously. You are one of the most important people in my life, integral to where I am today, and I know I
feel
write about it. What's that?
I feel the exact same thing. I not only do I like share that, but I also just really am proud of what you've done. It's kind of weird to say I'm proud, but I am, because I've seen how you started. Like I saw where you were. I saw what you struggled with from the emotional struggles of being relatively, when we met, I think you were relatively soon off a divorce.
Oh yeah, within a year. It was that I divorced in July, and I met you sometime around that time.
Yeah. Painful divorce. Now you're like a divorced father of 2 whose, children have always been like such the priority in your life. And I've always really respected it, how dedicated of a father you are. Like I think you are an unbelievable example to parents out there, especially single fathers. But I saw from the emotional insecurities and lack of confidence you had in certain areas of your life to, like, hey, you're the brokest guy in the NLP class. You're
That's not even a joke. That's legit truth.
Yeah. probably the least educated, brokest, came from the, a family that didn't understand personal development, didn't understand this stuff. And you were rewriting, and you have rewritten, the legacy of the Aguirre family that, saying, screw that. My history does not determine my future. and you took risks that I'm sure were scary as shit for you, right? Like I took, like, my parents aren't rich, they're well off, but I always knew I could fall back if I really screwed up. Mom and dad, I could count on them to make it right if I needed to, right? Luckily I didn't need to, but I could count on that. I don't think you had that safety net that I had. I had an emotional and financial safety net that made it easier for me to take risks. You didn't, and you still took those risks. And like, I really want to let you know, acknowledge that's huge, and keep doing that, because you're kicking ass at not even just financial, just at life. I pay attention to what you're doing on Facebook and fatherhood.
It's all paid off. All those risks, they're essentially bets, right? We're making bets at any given moment, especially big ones. I'm going to quit my job. I'm a bet on me, and it's going to go well. I'm a bet on, showing up for my kids, and I'm going to be there, right? Those bets paid off, brother, and I guess that's the way we can end this conversation. You were a major player in that. Those bets paid off. Emotionally, financially, in relationship. I'm in a good place, and the girls have graduated. They were the major focus of everything.
Oh, totally.
And now to know that they're both grown and starting to make their own decisions, and I've succeeded. This was a massive experiment, and they're like going to rocket life. It was worth the risk. It was scary as fuck, not gonna lie. At one point, you had to let me borrow money. Like, that's how bad it was, right? To pay for a couple of things. So to know that I'm here now.
The same fire, one of my favorite quotes is that the same fire that melts butter hardens steel.
Shit, never heard that one. There you go. I appreciate you, my friend. I know you got to get going. Thank you for joining me in this conversation through time.
Thank you for having
hopefully
me,
some people got some good information. Anything's possible. Even a broke ass dude like myself can make it. Just partner up with a good homie.
Smurfly. All right, brother. Much love. Let me know when you think about coming out to San Diego.
It'll be coming probably early 2023. All right. Bye-bye.